Do you love a good SJM Maasverse theory? I am a sucker for them, but I suck at finding them. With the Maasverse expanding to her other series, you can't help but connect the dots. So since I am not good at it, I invited the Maasverse expert. Without having to blow a brain cell to figure it out ourselves, I am the charity bookstrovert reader with Ana, who's known on Bookstagram as Reads by Unhinged, where she finds the theories so you don't have to. I will warn you, readers, this has lots of Maasverse spoilers, especially talking about Crescent City 2. So definitely, I would recommend that you read this book before venturing into this episode. I am so excited to share this with you. Let's get into it. So, Ana, definitely tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into the Maasverse.
So yes, actually a friend recommended the series to me because I've always been super into fantasy. And I had heard about it, but I was honestly kind of intimidated to get into the series. It's a journey. And so I finally was like, I'm going to try this out. Just like bought the first book. Didn't commit to the whole series at first. I was like, this is just like a lot, right? And so I started the first book. I think I read it in like 3 days, and I had ordered like the next 2 in this series, but didn't want to wait for them to be delivered. So I canceled my order. I drove to my bookstore and I immediately bought every single book like in the series. And then my husband gifted me Throne of Glass for Christmas. And then I went down that rabbit hole. But just like once I started reading, I was like, oh my God, like, what does this mean? Like having to look stuff up. And then I started looking up just a little bit more about Sarah in general. And like the fact that she wrote Throne of Glass, or at least like the first few books when she was 16 and then posted them online before it got picked up to be published, like, it's just insane to me. I'm like, what was I doing at 16? Like I was probably in my room at home with like my cute little webcam trying to make like funny videos to send to my friends, like burning CDs on LimeWire, and here's this woman, this master. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then you just like start to relate to some of the characters, and it just like speaks to your soul, and like, I don't know, in a way it kind of like brought me back to life a little bit. I don't know. So I think it's just kind of, it's interesting how like when you talk to people who've also read anything in the Maasverse, that they find maybe one character or a couple of characters that they just like completely bond with, and then it just like, does something to them, right? Like they almost, I don't know, it almost saves them, I guess. But like it's just something about the way that she writes these characters, how it literally just speaks to your soul. There's something about it that I think is just so magical.
Yeah, because I think you even posted today about, I guess, content creator talking about the subjective reading of like even the Akatar of like a Court of Silver and Flame, about whether you like Nesta or don't like Nesta. You know, you either really hate her or you really relate to her. So that's how Sarah J. Maas has created these characters. So I think she needed to create a relatable character. I didn't like it, but it needed to be done, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. The first time that I read Silver Flame, like I was pissed because I'm like, I don't want to read an entire book from Nesta's perspective. And like, I mean, I still obviously read it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the other books. And I think it was just because of how well she did at painting the picture of Nesta just being this awful person that she treated Feyre. And I was like, God, this person sucks. But then when I reread it the second time, I was like, like I can understand her. I see her and I understand her. Do I still do I like her? Not necessarily, but I do see her and I do understand her. Like she's not somebody that I personally would want around me. Maybe when it comes to battle, if she's in the right mindset, but like I think with Nesta, like she is such a volatile character, and it's her trauma, it's how she's responding to trauma. But I think why many people maybe didn't like her as much is because she is triggering in nature, regardless of like the mother-daughter dynamic with her. And then obviously experiencing that trauma with the men in the village and then like the cauldron and all of that. It's like, it's a culmination of just like who she is, like who she's destined to be. Like, this is her, I think. And so
Right.
I think for a lot of people, they're like, oh man, she sucks. And like, move on. And that was me. That was me the first time I read it. I was like, God, she is terrible. But then you kind of can look past maybe just like that surface level stuff when you're reading that. And like, I don't know. I think that's why it's important to like be able to have some of those conversations, because some people like they will go to war. They will go to war for some of these characters. That is not a joke. I mean, like you've seen me post about Hunt Aquilar and like my theories about him. People are like, they will pop off in the comments, and I'm like, it's not because I don't like him. I'm not saying he's a bad person. He's just not doing it for me as a character in this book. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Oh boy, I do like it when people do come out with knives, because it's you see the passion behind it, but at the same time, like, chill, it's okay.
Yes.
Sarah J. Maas is going to write her book the way she wants to write it, and you can't control it. But just like how you fell in love with Tamlin.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, there's still some people out there that are like, I mean, I like him. I don't think he's doing anything wrong. And I'm like, I'm happy for you. Genuinely, I'm happy for you.
Let's part ways as friends.
Yeah.
So we have obviously Crescent City 3 coming out. We read the first 2 books, and I just finished it the previous night before. Now, that's what we're here for, is those theories, because Sarah J. Maas is going down the whole of the Maasverse, connecting it all. I was watching some of your videos about string theories, and I'm like, oh boy. And the hot topic I want to talk about is Bryce and Hunt being in game. I just love it.
Okay. So, and I keep bringing this interview up, like, yes, she said they're mates. I accept that. And like, they have said they're mates, like, I don't even know how many times in House of Time Breath. Their scents have merged. Like, we get it. Okay. They're mates. I understand. But like, I don't know that they're endgame. And I personally don't think Sarah thinks that they're endgame either, because she also in that same interview said, but that doesn't mean they're both going to make it to the end. And I'm like, so are we just going to gloss over the fact that she kind of slipped that little nugget of information in there? Because she's an evil mastermind. Like, yeah, okay, the whole, like, in Akatar, when like Reese died, like, she brought him back, so everyone's like clinging to the theory, like, okay, well, if this happens, like, it's fine because she's going to bring him back. And I'm like, perhaps, but maybe not in the way that we expect. So I also don't think it's just going to be 3 books.
Oh,
I
no.
think it's going to be like at least another one, because there's 4 houses.
I mean, I did my, simple tabbing, pitiful tabbing. I was trying.
Oh my gosh. Like, and look at mine. Mine's insane.
I'm like, that's why I'm not the expert.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm just saying, because if I noticed anything, she does intentionally put certain things in her books. So when he was like, he was holding his mate's hand for the last time. And, and then of course, I think confirm this for me. I think his mind just got wiped. Like, every bond that he had got just totally taken away from him. So I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
So I don't even know if like the Hunt that we have experienced throughout Crescent City so far is actually like who Hunt really is. Because I think it was like probably the last third of House of Time Breath where Bryce meets with the Prince of the Pit, and he casually says like, oh, Hunt was bred to be able to sense like demons or whatever. And it's like, okay, if he has such a high affinity for hunting demons or anybody that's coming out of hell. Don't you find that a little bit strange? Like, my personal theory is that he was like his father. He was probably bred by one of the princes of hell, if not the Apollyon.
Yeah, because
He's
they
the
were
prince of the
talking
pit.
about that at the end, is that they
Yeah.
were breeding out certain things.
Yes. Yes. And so, like, for that to just, like, that one sentence where he was like, he is, he knows where to look for us. Like, he knows, like, it's within him, like, it's part of him. And I think too, like, I can't remember if it was House of Earth and Blood or House of Sky and Breath, the part where they talk about Prince Peleus and uh, Thea, I think that's how you say her name, the Fae Queen, who they were like, they were saying that, like, the Prince of the Pit stole Prince Peleus' blood and combined it with his essence. And so, and I'm like, and that was mentioned a couple of times. And then the whole, like, breeding thing keeps coming up in House of Sky and Breath. And I'm like, was Hunt actually bred by somebody's blood and then the essence of the Prince of the Pit to become this? Because he's essentially, he's been a slave this whole time, whether he was marked by that stamp or not, because he was essentially a slave to the legion that he served before during the rebellion or whatever, because he just blindly followed Shahar into battle, and he said that multiple times. So I'm like, he probably doesn't understand, like, who or what he is, because he's just been following those people in the same way that he's blind, like, following Bryce to do whatever, like, mate or not. Like, he's doing it because somebody's leading him to it.
Yeah, because I think one theory I saw when I went down my Reddit hole was that Hunt could be possibly not technically a mate, but more of the knight, or they talked about having a knight. That's what I read. But I don't know. I guess in my mind, and I could be missing details because I was trying to get through this, there was a lot of times where in Hunt's point of view, he kept talking mate, his scent with hers, but not when it came to Bryce's point of view. It wasn't mentioned as much. So it was interesting to see or read.
Well, and that's why I was, like, skeptical too, because I'm thinking of it as, like, in the Fae sense of the word mate, like how like Reese and Farrah, for example, like he knew immediately, right, when he saw her. And then, like, she felt like they felt the bond snap in place, and it was pretty distinct. And, like, then I don't know. And then later, like, whenever in House of Sky and Breath, when they were in the Death Charger, and then, like, they finally, did the deed. And like it was like this experience or whatever. Like, she felt like part of herself. I don't know. It was weird. The way that she talked about it, I think, was a little bit different than what she has traditionally talked about in the sense of the word
Exactly.
mate. But then also, you have to look at like Danica and Vaxian. They're mates, but they're two different species. So, like, what is it in Crescent City about this word that, like, is, I think that's what people are trying to figure out. Like, sure, are they mates, but are they really mates in the sense that, like, she's been talking about it? I don't know. I'm a little confused about that part, I will admit.
Well, there's something I noticed at the end is that they might have a term in Crescent City, but it's a totally different term in Akatar or Throne of Glass. So they have used the word mate throughout, in those terms. But, I don't know, maybe that's just a cohesive thing, but why is mate is the only thing that is the most cohesive word used throughout all the series?
And I guess maybe too why it's so murky is because Crescent City is it's such a more modern book for her, but then it has, like, those concepts of, like, the Fae and, like, the rules of the past and all of that. I mean, you see, like, with the Autumn King, how he's trying to hold on to, like, those old timey values. And so I feel like that's that piece where she's trying to bring that in. But I don't know. I feel like with the term mate, like, it seems it's like across all three series is pretty much the same. Like, we're lifers, right? Like, so I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I think Hunt for me is just like, he's sketchy. He's just sketchy. I don't trust him. I don't know.
He charges the battery,
Yes.
like she can draw power from a lot of people, but he is like kind of that Thunderbird that they talked about a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and can really charge her up to do what she can do. So I'm like, I think he's got a different use.
So that was also too like, so Bryce is essentially like she herself as a physical being, in my opinion, is now she's the fourth item of the dread trove
Mm.
because she has the horn in her. So like, what does that mean in terms of like how it's going to play out with the other three items? Because they're physical things, they're not human, but they do have a certain like sentience to them. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm and while I was reading, and I don't know if I'm just like completely off base or spiraling again, but when I was reading, like with her being the horn and being able to wield it and having Hunt or whoever, right, like zap her with power to be able to access the horn, to me it almost is pretty similar to in Throne of Glass, like in Kingdom of Ash, when Aelin and Dorian forged the lock. So
Mm.
like because she's a conduit, and the lock is a conduit. Like they had to imbue it with their power in order for it to work. So to me, I'm like, so is Bryce then? Is she essentially the lock, or is she a key to be able to open up these gates again? Because here's another thing. We still don't know what is happening with the two other Vald Kings from Throne of Glass.
Yeah.
Like, they're not just hanging out having a tea party. Like, they are, like, no, and they're more powerful. They're the more powerful ones, too. So, I'm thinking, like, maybe that's kind of the connection here with, like, Bryce. And then maybe the Throne of Glass world. But I also have other theories about that, too. But it's just, like, I feel like she, in the same way, kind of represents that gate or that lock or that key, something like is important with her being able to like open
Right.
something in order to let something in.
That is a good theory. I'm
I haven't really
rereading
fully
through.
worked it out yet.
Yeah. I think 3 is going to solve a lot of our whole theories, answer
Yeah.
them, give us more to question in life.
She's gonna rip our hearts out, I'm sure. I'm
Oh.
so sure of it. I'm gonna have to take a week off to recover.
It took 6 days.
Yes, literally, I plan to.
I thought about doing the same thing that you did. I would just cancel my Barnes and Noble edition and just going to pick up the book, because I don't want to wait a week and a half to finally get my copy, because there are going to be spoilers pilfering everything.
Well, there's already spoilers. I mean, I guess like I don't know if you saw, but like the whole book was leaked, I guess, at
Oh
some
yeah.
point.
I
Yeah,
heard it was only a few chapters, and then I saw no book talker said it was the whole book.
that's what I thought too.
I was shocked about that. And of course, Bloomsbury released something too, and a lot of people got mad about that. And I'm like, well, you know, if
Yeah,
you haven't read it by now.
and I mean, I get it why people are upset if
Yeah.
they haven't read it, but also because like I mean, it's been a hot second since the book has been published,
Yeah,
so
2 years. Yeah.
and I don't feel like they could have really posted much else in terms of like in relation to Bryce, as far
Mhm.
as like a little sneak peek without without saying what's going on, because like I mean she's literally in Prithian, so
Yeah.
and we don't know if she like how she's gonna make it back, if she makes it back, or like what's gonna happen.
I know, I'm kind of excited to see how that works out, because the theory that you had was the string theory.
Mm-hmm.
And like it kind of reminds me, I don't know if you saw Star Trek, like the alternate universe kind of it's like a different version of themselves, but that's how I thought of it. But then when you
Yeah.
explained it, I'm like, okay. So Tell me about your string theory. Oh, and before we get into string theory, going back to Bryce and Hunt being endgame, your theory was that there could be a chance that Bryce and Azrael.
Oh yeah, I'm team Bryce and Az for sure. So I say that because of that Fae prophecy that they talked about, where
Mm-hmm.
sword and dagger, if they come together, then the people will be at peace. So
Mm.
I mean, and they like the Star Sword and Azrael's Truth Teller, they're made of the same type of stone that's in the
Mm-hmm.
meteorite. And so, like, I mean, that prophecy, I feel like that's a little bit of foreshadowing. Like, we know they're going to be spending time together. We know from that teaser that Bloomsbury posted that they're spending time together, they're working together. So, I think I'm for it. And I know like that made a lot of people mad too, but I'm like, I'm sorry, but sweet baby Az, he needs his moment. And he certainly isn't getting it from Elaine that we
I've
know
been
of.
so desperate for Az to get his moment, but I wasn't. I was for a second there. I was like, okay, him and Elaine. I was on that train for a while, but then when I heard your theory, I'm like, all right, I'm kicking that one to the curb, and I'm gonna stay on the Bryce one.
Well, okay, so like with the whole string theory thing, it's like, I mean, just with the timing of things, like it makes sense that those timelines overlap in some way. Because like, but the worlds themselves, like they're representative of a different time, but that could also just, it could be like anything that you talk about now, like comparing third world countries that maybe don't have access to certain tech as us, so they're not as advanced as us. It's the
Mm.
same concept, I think, with this. And obviously in House of Sky and Breath, like you, towards the end when Bryce is in the archives and she sees like all the timelines, the planet, like all of this stuff, puts into perspective like, okay, yeah, like this is definitely something that is occurring or has been occurring for a really long time. But then she lands in Prithian, and just the timing of that, it's off by like, I think maybe a few months or maybe even a year. But like, what if it is a different planet, like, or you're in a different galaxy? It's the same thing, like those gates, it's like you're in an elevator, right?
Mm-hmm.
You step off on that floor, sure, it might be the same layout, but the way things are placed in the room are totally different. The shape of the furniture is different or whatever. It's the same kind of concept of that. So I don't know. I think I really, really am rooting for Bryce and Azrael. I truly am. And again, it's nothing against Hunt. I just feel like we don't really, like, not only do we not know anything about him, me personally hasn't really done anything personality wise for me to like want to root for him. Like, yeah, I'm not shutting down anything that he did in the past and like the slave status and like fighting for his freedom. But like, he also did some shady stuff in House of Ice and Blood with the whole synth thing, the whole rebellion thing too on the boat. And it was just like he lied to Bryce. Regardless if he came to stop the whole transaction at the end, he still lied, knew about it for an extended period amount of time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why would you do that, knowing it's impacting her mental health, her relationship with people? Like, I don't know. It's different than the other people in the, like, look at Rune, who, like, his personality is like, yeah, he likes to party, he does, whatever extracurriculars at his parties and like all this stuff, but like he's still making a valiant effort. He's like standing up to his dad, he's looking out for his sister, he's helping out his friends. He helped out Ethan, who like apparently, that whole politics surrounding like the wolves and the fays, like he's like going out of his way to be a good guy, and then like his relationship with Day and like wanting to bust her out of the like all of that, like it's just like, to me, it's like apples and oranges. Like, I don't know. And then Azrael just being like, from what I can tell, a good guy, like with the inner circle. He's always looking out for Feyre. Like, be careful how you talk about my high lady. Like, I don't know. I just think the dynamic is a little bit different. Like, and everything with Hunt seems to be more surface level than that.
Yeah, it's like very self-centered on just Bryce and Bryce alone.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like almost like a Tamlin situation. you know? but I guess we'll see, and maybe that would be brought to light because some things went down at the end of House of Sky and Breath. So
Yeah. I mean, I remember like the first time I read it, I was like, what? Are you kidding? And my husband's like, what's going on? Are you okay? And I was like, you wouldn't get it because you haven't read the books, but like, I'm freaking out.
all right, so let's go down the string theory. And I thought it was pretty interesting at the end that she's like, this person looked like Fury, this person looked like Groon. So I was like, wonder what that's about.
So yeah, I think I made, this was like a few weeks ago, maybe another video where I'm like, these people are just like different versions of themselves. And it reminded me of a different book that I had read where, yeah, you're able to walk through these portals and it brings you to just like another layer of that same world or same universe. It's just a different timeline. So you're able to be a twin version of yourself, but you don't recognize them because there's something that's just slightly different, right? And so I am curious how that's going to play out, because the whole thing with that is like, okay, so then is there another version of Bryce out there somewhere that we don't know of? Or like, is there, because if that's the case, like, yeah, this person has a lot related to like Reese and Rune, right? And then a lot of people have been connecting the dots with like Cameron and Fury.
Right.
So I'm just like, okay, so what's the deal here? Is there another version of Bryce? Or like, who then would be like another version of, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to piece it all together. Because like the only other redhead in the ACOTAR world was Amarantha or I guess Gwen.
Oh yeah, Gwen. Which Gwen is a possible, like a theory one person had was like Gwen and as well.
Yeah. Which, like, I don't know, maybe. I mean, maybe. I think there's just, we didn't have enough with them together, truly, like, or interacting together to, like, maybe really have an idea of it. It's just like there's like that flirtatious whatever happening, but maybe it is Gwen. Maybe Gwen and Bryce. Maybe that's the two parallels between the world. If that's the case, like if that truly is the case, like they're just different versions of themselves, then maybe the two of them are twins. Plot twist.
Oh, we'll never know until, probably 4 years from now.
I know, she's going to be writing for like the rest of her life, and I promise you I will be buried with her book. I will be buried with.
What's that one, Game of Thrones series? Or yeah. I mean, she's got a solid career, because I'm actually starting to see different industries, like gaming industries or things like that, is now talking about ACOTAR, about her books. Like, I'm watching Sims 4, and they're building a house, and they're like, yeah, we need fairies because this is popular. And I'm like, what? Like, this is linked into other industries on YouTube and everything.
That's cool.
It is very cool. Like, people are demanding fairies in a game because of ACOTAR. So I'm like, wow. So
she's literally taken over the world.
She is.
Actually.
I mean, she is like a celebrity now. She's a bigger celebrity than movie celebrities in my world.
I don't think I have any Google alerts ever set on my phone except for anything that is related to her or any of her books. So it's like anytime my phone pings, I'm like, oh, what's happening? Is it Bloomsbury? Is it Sarah? What's going on? With her show too, I do hope that, like, part of me hopes that she can hold out for like a bigger platform like Amazon to pick it up, or like even HBO.
Was it Hulu at first that picked her up?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen anything else that's come up with it, like still being on or off, but I don't know.
I keep hearing it going back and forth between it, and I think I'm actually kind of nervous for it to come out, just because she's definitely not going to please everybody in this, because they're such diehard fans. And if they do take more creative liberty in creating this, I think they're just going to be more angry people.
Yeah, yeah. And nothing against Sulu. I just feel like she just needs a bigger budget to be able to do
Oh,
what
yeah.
she needs to do with it.
She needs a Lord of the Rings budget on
Oh, yeah.
Amazon.
100%. Or even like Showtime, somebody like that doesn't.
Right. Because I don't have Hulu just because I don't like what they produce these days. So yeah. But yeah, I'm hoping for the best. So in my Reddit search for finding theories, one person theorized that Bryce might be part of the Dusk Court of Prithian. So the reason being is that SJM has said that she is a fan of The Last Unicorn, a movie book that follows the story of Lady Alethea, the last remaining unicorn. Discovers lately that all the other unicorns have been trapped in the waves and remained imprisoned there for years. This is very similar to how the people of the Dusk Court were described when Nesta went to the prison and heard their echoes. Not only that, but Lady Alethea also happens to have 8-pointed star in her forehead, where her horn is supposed to be when she is in her human form. The same 8-pointed star that is both the symbol of the Starborn Fae and the symbol that is on the forehead of the character in the cover of Crescent City 3. In, I don't say this correctly, A Court of Thorns and A Court of Silver Flame, there's a mention of Pegasus, and we are told that they came from the prison island, the same place where the Dusk Court used to be. Bryce's favorite toy is Jelly Julebee, which also happens to be a Pegasus unicorn. There is also a Pegasus unicorn on the cover of all 3 CC books, and in the reveal video that SJM posted for Crescent City 3 that there was a Pegasus toy on her desk.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
That's a lot, right? I got one. Oh yeah. Oh, I found it. It's somebody else's.
I did see that too, and then like also just to connect the fact that she's in Prithian, like it's also important to note that it's Helion that has like I think 13 Pegasi. I don't know the plural word for it, but so that has to tie into that somehow, especially since Nesta also has the 8-pointed star tattooed on her.
Okay.
And Bryce has it on her chest. Also, Cassian has it too. He has the same 8-pointed star tattooed on him because they bargained together.
Okay.
So I don't know what that necessarily means for him, but obviously he's going to be pretty prevalent in the next Akatar book, which, yay, she's working on it, but I feel like it's going to be like years before we get it. So I'm curious how, so since we know it's overlapping, I'm curious then how moving forward, since Crescent City is ongoing and Akatar is ongoing, what that's going to mean for the other characters. So I don't know.
Like she mentioned another series that she might be working on as well.
Yes, and it was like Viking related.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm here.
I didn't deep dive into that. Just because I was like knee deep in like this stuff. But yeah, and I don't think I've heard anything more outside of like Bloomsbury announcing that there's gonna be 7 more titles that she's contracted for. But like, I mean, I don't know. As an author, like once you start writing, like who knows? Maybe there's more to be said after that. So,
I mean, in Sky and Breath, they were talking about all kinds of different worlds, like even like 7 of them, I think, in that timeline. So she's probably used Sky and Breath as like her platform to get it going. You know, like this is the setup to know more and understand more. And who knows, with her, she'll probably start talking about it in very subtle ways in the next books, and then she'll throw it at us, and we're going down a theory hole again.
Oh, again, it's gonna be like I said, we'll be old and gray, still trying to like figure it out. And I don't know. She's an evil mastermind, like I said, and like I know she's a fan of happy ending. I'm aware of that fact. That doesn't mean that she isn't going to like completely
rip a heart
and bask in a river of our tears until that happens.
Roll the tears of our sadness and there's a happy ending, by the way.
So like the joy. Thank you for the joy.
Right. And I Oh man, I'm sad about Cormac. I'm very sad. I was getting attached to him, but
I know. And
he's
like,
got such a sad story, but he's got a lot of background on him though too.
yes. And so that's why, and like, that's why I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen with Rune? Because, I mean, we
Hmm.
know somebody's going to die. We know. We know. I'm like, it's going to be Hunt. Like, I've been preaching that for a while. But he's very, like, to me, like, and I'm not a very religious person. So, like, for some of her stuff, I'm like, oh, what does this mean? I have to look it up because there is a lot of ties into certain religions and like
hmm
concepts that she puts in her stories. And so, and actually somebody commented on my other video, they're like, yeah, he's definitely going to die, but it's all very like Jesus coded. And I'm like, it's kind of true because like the tattoo on the forehead was like the barb, like thorns or whatever.
hmm
And like essentially like, I mean, the whole Asteri thing now at the end, like they're going to torture him again. Like, I don't know. It's just going to be, I think it's something related to that, but like whatever he comes back as,
hmm
evidently, like I'm assuming that's what's going to happen after he
Because
dies, because he will die. Like,
I'm just saying. Okay, I think I just had a theory in my head. I mean, I could be wrong. So he's Hunt's been around for a long time, right?
mm-hmm. Since
And
233, I think they said.
yeah, so they pinned his wings to wherever that place was as a kind of like a trophy almost. And then he's like, then Hunt knew nothing at all after this guy basically wiped his mind away.
Mm-hmm.
What if that's not the first time they did it to him?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. That's why I'm saying, like, that's why we don't, like, the fact that he is so surface level, like, I mean, genuinely, he is so surface level, even, like, he's so cocky and arrogant, and it's not, like, in a funny or cute way that, like, Cassian is cocky and arrogant, or even how Reese is like, oh, I'm the most handsome High Lord, right? Like, it's the fact that there's literally nothing else. He is either kill, 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 or yeah, I'm hot. Like there is literally nothing else about him that provides depth, I think, outside of like he literally just wants to hook up with Bryce and he'll protect her at all costs. Like I love that for him. Genuinely, I do. I'm happy that you're protecting your girl. But what else is there about you that like is making you a valuable character in this sense? So like, or maybe it's coming, but just obviously with that ending. But like, how is it taken nearly 1,600 pages for us to like maybe get something out of you though? Like that's where I'm at. I'm like, you don't know who you are. He doesn't know who he is. He has no freaking clue. He doesn't know anything about his life because he then
Yeah, like we didn't spend a lot of time in his past, even in his own POV. I mean, there were some
yes,
things about who he used to serve, but that was just touch and go.
yeah. And the fact that he was like, he talks about, oh, I think Shahar, I believe that's how you pronounce it. Like, I have no clue. I'm trying my best, I will say, with the pronunciation. But like, how he said that she never like brought him out in public or anything like
Never
that. And
called him like mate or anything like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
or like there was really like he loved her, but it's like, was that an actual feeling of love or was that something that like you were made to feel because you're being manipulated by your maker?
Yeah.
Because even still, the one thing I will say about that, when the Prince of the Pit visited him in his mind, the very first
hmm
time in House of Sky and Breath, when he was asleep, and he was like, I'm tied to a chair and I can't get up. And
Hmm.
he's like, I heard the beat of leathery wings. Actually, I think I have it marked. But like, um, he, I thought that was strange, or like maybe even a little bit of foreshadowing happening there because I, he's part of him has to be part demon, I think.
Okay.
So like he has this huge affinity to hunt down these demons, or he knows where they are or where they're lurking. I feel like that's part of him, who he is, that he senses them. But then, like, when he had that dream or whatever, or that vision, and he was talking to the Prince of the Pit, he was bound to a chair and he couldn't get up. So
Okay.
I feel like this is, like, that is going to be a recurring theme outside of him being tortured by the Asteria or whoever. But, like, that's obviously a place he's been before. Because it was much different when he talked to Bryce. It's like she could freely, like, there was no restraint when it came to her. So
what if he's bound in something else too? You know, like something deep that we don't know about.
what if like, I feel like he's just being manipulated. And
what if he's being manipulated into thinking that he is connected to Bryce so they can be that battery and that connection in that way?
Okay, yeah. Or look at, like, how Maeve did with Rowan as a Val's queen. How she, like, controlled his mind, made him believe that he had a mate. Like,
yeah.
and then it turns out that she was absolutely not his mate. But I mean, perhaps they are, like, we know they're mates, correct? We know they're mates, but I feel like he's being manipulated, yes, outside of just, like, Bryce, like, their relationship. I feel like he's being manipulated to, like, leading her down a specific road, ultimately, that will lead to his demise, or maybe her demise. I don't know.
Well, it was predicted in the first book that Bryce will be his demise, and
yes. So I mean, it's like the whole theme of the series is, like, his death, and dying, like, war is coming, and so I don't know. I think, like, that scene of him being tied to that chair when he was talking to the Prince of the Pit. I need to find what page that is, because I know I marked it somewhere, and
I remember reading it myself.
oh, here it is.
Page
237 of House of Sky and Breath. I have the hardcover too, so I don't know.
Oh, I have a theory about Cormac too. I just we'll get to it. I was thinking about it a little bit.
Yes, 37. That where he, like, where it says, Hunt sat in a simple folding chair at the bottom of an abyss, nothing but blackness around him, the only light coming from the faint glow cast by his body. There was no beginning or end to the perpetual night. And then if you go down a little bit, he said he didn't want Bryce in a place like this, so dark and empty and yet awake. Wings rustled nearby, not the soft feathers of his wings, but something leathery and dry. And then the next paragraph down, it says his booted feet were glued to the black floor. And then the leathery wings whispered again, and, like, there was the end of it.
I wonder if, like, in Throne of Glass, they were talking about that black stone that was constantly used.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's kind of like the same.
Well, yeah, and then because, like, whenever Bryce sees the Prince of the Pit, he describes him as being, like, very attractive, like, blonde hair, tan skin, but she mentioned his eyes were completely black. And so I'm like, so then are the princes of hell Valg?
Yeah.
Are they?
Because that's how they eventually get turned, is when they start blacking out right there.
And then the mention of Hunt's eyes has always been his dark eyes. His dark eyes.
What if he's Valg?
So that's why my theory is, like, maybe he is, like, he was bred by one of the princes of hell. The Prince of the Pit, just because he infiltrated his mind, and like I said, he was bound to this chair. So maybe he's one of their messengers. I don't know. As a fallen angel.
Correct me if wrong, but in Thorn of Glass, that kind of what happened to Katrina.
Or
Is it
Kaltane?
Kaltane, yeah. That was kind of what happened with her, with the Black Stone and them whispering in her mind and things like that. I could be wrong, but
well, so with hers, I think the difference there is that she had the word stone in her, like, they put it in her arm.
Right. Right.
And with Hunt, like if he is bred by one of the princes of hell who are Valg, if we're gonna go with that theory, then
Right.
perhaps that essence of that evilness, right, is already in him. In the same way that like Dorian was questioning whether he was human or Valg, because King, his father, had already he'd already been infested with Valg at that point when he
Right.
fired him. So he was like, oh my gosh, is this who I am? Like, am I human or am I not?
And
Like,
I
it's the
think,
same thing.
yeah, and I think when they rescued Kaltang that last time, they were doing that. They were trying to breed Valg.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if Hunt was one of those results because it's kind of like a timeline thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe
Well,
because he is so old and has been around forever.
it's oh
And
man, but we think it's hot.
well, but then like I mean, if everybody in Midgard, they say like everybody came here,
Right.
right? Like they came to Midgard. Like that was not people's normal home. Like they all immigrated there. So
Right. And I think also too, this king or whatever you want to call him, the Prince of Pit, was kept calling him Orion.
Orion, yeah.
And I think, and you use that example too, as well as one of those the stories that Orion never has a happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't. Literally every version of him ends with either him being like because eventually like how the story ends is yes he dies but then he's turned into like the constellation, the star constellation. And also I didn't fully get through this, but like when they were naming off all of the names of the Asteri, I'm
Mm.
pretty sure like he's tied to the Asteri maybe somehow as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I was like, oh, the names of these are bright stars. Orion the Hunter is then a star constellation, and like the names of Orion's belt, like actually, are some of those names I believe that are
Mm.
Asteri. Don't quote me on that because I was still working through it, and then like I kind of jumped around a little bit, but I was like, okay, this is a little strange. I'm not 100% sure on that one. I think I like wrote it down to like come back to, but again, I feel like he's definitely going to die. I feel like there's something else that's happening with him. He is an experiment. He is an experiment. I don't know that he is a good person in this sense.
Yeah. I don't know. Because gonna get some answers. Hopefully.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. I don't think this time, because of the spoilers I got from Sky and Breath, I decided that I'm not gonna wait a year to read this third book. I'm gonna dive in as soon as possible. Because
Well,
I don't want it
especially while
ruined.
it's fresh, too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I just wrote my review. I like the second one a lot better than the first because there's a lot more POVs, a lot more storylines going on,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot more connection. And with Prince Cormac,
Mm-hmm.
he can teleport the other worlds because he's able to teleport just like Bryce can.
Yes, and so my thought with that was he said he had two cousins that he kept mentioning, they were never mentioned by name. And my thought was like, oh, is it Reese and Moore?
Mm,
And like, I don't
yeah.
know, that like the relationship is strained or whatever.
Right.
So I don't know. I really
I
don't know.
Yeah, I
Isn't
think
it?
we're gonna find out more about him, even though he may have died.
Yeah. Well, and then I also thought of like Fenris too from Throne of
Right.
Glass because he can winnow, which I like picked up on the second time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, well, maybe he's related to this somehow as well because he has the exact same power. I'm just like, I know the Throne of Glass world is going to be tied in somehow. I'm just still trying to work out how or who is going to make the appearance. Because I've had lots of theories about it, but I'm just like, it has to all come together somehow.
Well, I don't think like it was a total fruition of her plans on doing that until like I think when she finally was writing Crescent City, and then she was like pulling from that stuff. So I don't know, maybe she had it this whole time, but it's a genius move.
It really is. Like honestly, it really is. It really is. So I don't know. I'm so many things.
Any other theories that you think that you want to talk about that you know?
I mean, have a lot of unhinged ones.
What do you, okay, I did write this question. What are your predictions in Crescent City 3 about what may happen and what we might see? What are your predictions?
So obviously the Hind, we're gonna get a lot more of her. I feel like there's gonna be more of her POV in Crescent City 3 too, because just of her being a double agent, you know? And then the whole story with Rune and the Oracle, I think, is going to come to fruition in City 3 because he's worried the bloodline will end with him. But I'm trying to piece it together. Like, what exactly does that mean for him? The bloodline ends with you. So, like, but why? In what way is this important to the big picture? And so I know there's going to be like major players that we know and love that are going to die outside of like who I think if outside of it of Hunt, let's say, I think there's going to be somebody that dies. And one theory that I had, which is crazy, if Bryce like comes back to her world somehow, what does that mean for like her and Hunt? Because if his memory's wiped and he's like brainwashed, let's say, and he doesn't like what is that going to mean for her? Like, is she going to open up the gates of hell like they were wanting her to in House of Sky and Breath? Because, and then also from the Akatar world, we have to remember. I think he's like I pronounced it Koshi the first time, but I think it's Kosashe, like how you pronounce it actually. I think he's going to be a key player in this too because the way that Silver Flames ended, it almost seemed like he, I don't know, it almost seemed like he was already influencing a few people in the inner circle to do what needed to be done in order for him to be released. And I think it's also just with Bryce being there as essentially the fourth item of the Dread Trove, which is maybe why Nesta couldn't see when she had like done the scrying and she saw, was it the mask or the heart? When she, like, you know what I'm talking about? And then she's like, there was another item, but it was blurred out. Maybe it was blurred out because it's Bryce and it's like a physical person. So maybe she saw what we assume would be the horn, but couldn't really tell what it is because it's now in Bryce's back.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like Kosashe is going to make an appearance and somehow have something to do with like unleashing hell or something.
I'm gonna have to retouch on Koshie because it's like who? When I first saw it, I was like, who?
Well, it's I the pronunciations like have gotten me all kinds of crazy. I'm like, how do I pronounce this? How do I say this? And I've had to go back and like look, but I don't know. And then we need to know what's under Ramiel.
Oh yeah.
And because so there's an altar at the top with a black stone. We know that because Nesta did the blood rite, but we don't know what's under it. And Eris hinted at that too, that we know that the prison is like one, right? And then you have under the mountain, like they were all trapped under the mountain. So he's like, there are things under them, but why don't we know what's under the one? And that's where the whole like dust court thing comes into play. So is this where we get more information on that? So I'm assuming that's why there's that interlap there.
It's like it goes so deep and just it never ends.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't. And like, I don't know. The one thing too is like the whole that somebody pointed out was the book of breathing,
Oh yeah.
how it was in the Crescent City, like in Jessica's library. Like,
Right.
how did it get there if it was being used in Throne of Glass? And it's like, yes, but Crescent City, you have to remember that like there was a solid 2 years between Danica dying and then Bryce coming into action. So that's a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And with Jessica being Jessica, we actually don't really know much about her either, which is a little suspect too. It's like, was she, like, how does she play into this? Because like obviously that book makes it to Crescent City somehow, or is it just another like what does that mean? Because that title, she didn't just casually throw that in there.
No, but gosh, it's deep. I know, Jessica. One more question before Danica, obviously, we only got a little snippet of who Danica was, but as obviously the story of book one and book two is being revealed, Danica is hiding quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
She's a bloodhound, she's a shifter, and she might be descendant of a big line of shifters and things like that. What do you think your theory is with her playing more part into the third book?
I think it'll have to tie in somehow to like maybe Hamlin somehow.
Hmm.
Hate to say it, but
Ooh.
because
Yeah.
he's like the most prominent shifter and he's kind of dormant at the moment
Right.
in the series. But my thought also is there's also a tie to Tamlin to the Throne of Glass world because of the ring that he gives Feyre is the same ring that Aelin has when her and Rowan get married. And so how does he have it? And my thought was like, oh, because of Adian and Lysandra, and Lysandra's a shifter, so he could be a descendant of them somehow, or their bloodlines are somehow connected at some
Mm.
point. But then I'm like, well, if the timelines are happening at the same time, but just like, you know what I mean? Like they're stacked on top of each other, and then time is relative. Like, how are these items getting here? Or
Yeah,
is
that is
this
a
just
big ticket
trying to,
item.
yeah? So is it
Yeah.
like, is it tying into them somehow? But I feel like maybe Danica is somehow tied to Hamlin because he is the most prominent like shifter, and he's
Oh boy.
a wolf. His channel is
Yeah.
a wolf. So why she, if she did pop up and like more secrets came out, which obviously they will.
Right. I mean, it is set in like as she described it, like a lot of their outfits are really back in the day or ancient or something like that. So with Danica researching about her ancestral line or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
it does make me wonder if it's connected one way or another.
I don't know. I'm still trying to work it out. Like even the whole timeline thing is still kind of hard in terms of the other book too,
Right.
because I think Feyre's birthday was probably the the marker of how to like try to use like how to set everything up in
Mm.
terms of like how things played out, just because we experienced it more than once in the series. And then you have like Aelin's birthday. Then there's the autumnal equinox that they talk about. So I'm trying to like piece it together that way. But
Right.
then I don't know, there's just like elements of it. I'm like, how does this work? Like, how is this working? Or are they simply using these gates to try and like, I don't know, like world walk? Because I will say too, it's like even in Throne of Glass, like Aelin mentioned like I will become a world walker. So I don't think that her story is over. And so I feel like they're gonna make an appearance somehow with this, especially
Oh
because of the
gosh.
question of escape and travel. So She used
Hmm.
word marks. And also, I don't know if you noticed this too, but like bird and word, like the connection there to the Throne of Glass world.
Right.
And then Aelin also calls herself the Queen of Flame and Shadow. And we have the House of Flame and Shadow as the next book.
Ooh, so maybe Aelin will make an appearance in the third book?
Somehow. Because like if I was Aelin and I was like, yeah, let me open up this portal real quick using a word mark. I mean, I'm not going to just casually let that go. I'm not going to forget about that. And she's a schemer. So I'm wondering too, because if Bryce technically like opens the gate because she wielded the horn when she made the drop, does that mean those are the same gates that Aelin closed? And because she opened them, then did Aelin's power go back to her?
Ooh.
I think I just like completely made your brain mush by telling you this.
I'm just like thinking about like, because one thing I picked up on was, when Meal, Sophie's brother,
Mm-hmm.
and, I thought it was just kind of a weird plot that she was exploring. And I guess the one thing that she did, was typical Aelin as well, is like she devised this whole thing and went behind Hunt's back. And then like, oh, surprise! I had this amazing plan and I carried it out without you knowing about it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Now, also, I'm thinking, like you said, the House of Flame and Shadow. She might be making an appearance because if she can walk between worlds, she might just pop up and say, "Hey, hello."
Or like this is also something too, and it's completely crazy, and I haven't like absolutely worked it out yet. But the fact that in Throne of Glass you have a city named Rifthold,
Oh, Rifthold, yeah.
and we're talking about a northern rift in Crescent City, and then in Asgard there's mentioned like Amryn went through the rift, and then all through Throne of Glass is like she's trying to figure out this code. Time's rift, and it's like, are we like, what's happening? What's happening? And she mentioned too, like, why? I wonder why this castle was built on this specific place.
Yeah.
When talking about the glass castle. So are we foreshadowing here for something? Because I think perhaps we are. And I don't know if I'm just overanalyzing, but I was like, that's really strange. Like you have a whole series, this Crescent City series of like, oh well, we don't like this side of the rift, northern rift, this rift. Like make sure these things don't come through this rift, and then you have a city named Riftfold.
Yeah, I do remember him, especially the Prince of Hell and all that. They're the ones that specifically are the ones who constantly bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one thought I had was, you were talking about who was it, Aelin and somebody else that she was able to open the gates and things like that.
Uh-huh.
So Bryce needs Hunt to be able to do that, but she's probably stuck in this other world now. So I'm wondering how she's gonna get back home at this point.
I feel like she's gonna have to use Nesta.
Hmm.
Because Nesta has that raw power. Her power
Right.
is death, essentially.
Didn't
But
she get rid of that just due to saving Farah and her kid?
yes, but also she's still able to wield the dread trove, and she hasn't like she didn't go crazy. Like she was still able to like take off the mask and be fine. Whereas people before that have wielded it weren't able to do so. That's what they alluded to. So I'm assuming because Nesta was made in that way, and also she has her sword that her power flowed to, so she's able to send her power into objects. So I'm assuming then that Nesta will be able to like give Bryce like a push of her power to be able to,
or to be the right.
or to be able. They're going to use the horn. They're going to use the horn, but like it would have to be Nesta just because she's got raw power. Or maybe not. I mean, it could be Reese too, because he's the most powerful. I love that they had or whatever. But I think it's going to come back to Nesta, especially because technically Bryce, her physical self, she is part of the Dread Pro.
Oh boy, I hate a lot.
I know.
It's pretty cool. I think we're gonna get a lot of answers and a lot of unanswered questions in the third book.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. I mean, I'm looking at the picture. He has a knife on his chest. He has a wolf, 4 spears. I mean, I don't know. And I think I saw you said the one with the face in it. I don't have that special edition one, but I thought that was interesting that was there too.
Yeah, I'm like, what is that? What's this creepy figure in this window?
Yeah, it's not on here. So, unless it was artist mistake, but
no, it's on the special edition, the Barnes and Noble special edition, the paperback one. And it's on the back covers are like flipped. So it's like on that little flipped corner of the special edition of the paperback.
Right.
And I was
it looks like pipes
casually
to me.
flipping through, and I was like, "What is that? It looks strange."
Oh, and one eye is gold and one eye is black.
Mm-hmm. And the same.
Do you have a theory about that?
Well, I think it goes back to the whole Valve thing, or because I mean, I don't know. And the same thing with the House of Flame and Shadow cover too. If you split the face, like one has the black around the eye, and the other one is like a normal eye. So I don't know what that means. I do feel like there's going to be like either something like hell is playing a role in this, unless the Asteri themselves are also Valve, which should very well be true. Because they're essentially feeding on the essence of people to survive, while it's not like drinking.
What if
anything?
What if they're calling themselves Prince of Hell, whatever, but they're really Valg? Like, just in the end of the day, that's who they are.
Maybe. I don't know.
Jeez.
But it's like there's 7 princes of hell. There's 7 Asteri. There's the 7 planets. There's like this unholy number that is 7. There's 7 archangels, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how does this all? I'm trying to figure out like where this is all going, because like he likes that number is there for a reason.
Right.
So I'm just trying to figure out why. And like Regulus or Regulus, however you say his name, the Bright Hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was wondering about that. Why they kept saying the Bright Hand. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything?
I don't know. I don't know. But I will say, like, one of the names of the stars on Orion, the constellation, is I want to say Rigel.
Mm-hmm.
Rigel. So I'm just gonna leave you with that. As like, oh, it's one of the brightest stars in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So Orion the Hunter, Hunt, Rigulus or Regulus, and then actually the brightest star in the sky is named Rigel, or I don't know how you say it. So like, and that is actually in Orion, the constellation. So like that connection, that's why I'm saying like this is Hunt, I don't think is a good person. I don't think he knows that because he's being mind controlled. So
it's so hard because I had that theory again, like I said, like, oh, he wiped his mind, but then in the synopsis of the third book, he's well aware of Bryce and all this stuff. So I'm like, that goes my theory.
I mean, I
but
think he's still being manipulated somehow. Because, like, you know how Reese can make somebody do something with his mind control? I mean, it could be the same power that's being established here, especially if it's the theory that's dishing it out, because if they're, and this is also just a theory, like, but if they're consuming this first light and second light or whatever, and it's essentially a drop of that person's power. So what if you have somebody who is, that's part of this, that's giving up a part of that power, right? And you're consuming it. Of course, maybe you're going to have access to that kind of power.
All right. Now it's hitting me. I'm like, all right, this is scope of my expertise. I Oh man. I think the names is what hard. It's like you're just trying. I think I had to like look up Regulus, for example. I'm like, who is that? And nobody can come up. I had some medical terms pop up and I was like, okay, I'm just going to stop going down that. And yeah, we'll see. I guess we'll see when the third one comes out.
Yeah.
And we'll just have a whole new set of videos that we will be discussing because, it's going to have more nuggets in there.
Oh, 100%. So many more
Yeah.
nuggets. So many more nuggets. I just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know. Like, the fact that the brightest star is actually on Orion, the constellation, and then you have Orion, aka Hunt, interacting with the Asteria somehow. I don't know if it's maybe, I don't know. I think we'll obviously find out, but like, he's a puppet. He's being a puppet. He's being played somehow, some way, somehow.
Maybe he has a stone in him that he just doesn't know about.
Maybe.
I mean, Caltaine didn't know.
Or like I said, like, what is, like, who is it? Like, we don't know anything about its history. We know nothing about its history.
No.
Not really. There's nothing that's been confirmed outside of what was blatantly told to us. So it's like all speculation. That's why I'm like, well, maybe he was bred by the Prince of the Pit. And but then also Bryce made a comment of how, like when he was in his like rage days, where she's like, oh, I've seen this before, and she references him to Sir, that statue that she was researching for the Fae Archives, and it was like he's like the god of thunder and lightning. So it's almost like SJM's been alluding to the fact that like Hunt is somehow related to Sir. So what if that was his father?
Gosh, Star Wars moment. I am your father.
I don't know.
So, I guess time will tell.
15 days.
We might figure it out 8 years from now, 3 books later, maybe.
God.
New series.
I'll be well into retirement, probably.
I'd be passing these books on to my children and their inheritance, and I should annotate them because they'll be like, this is archive. This is gold.
Yeah, imagine. I bet her stuff is going to be so expensive, like 50 years from now, 100 years from now, especially if it's annotated. Keep it, put all your notes in it.
Yes. And they're going to like laugh at our video and going, hey, oh, you knew.
I know, but that's the beauty of it, right? It's like when you have an ongoing series, like just like this piece of it is so fun because, like I said, she's so smart. She's so smart. Like to be able to even weave something like this together is, I mean, like I said, like I was 16 just hanging out burning CDs in my parents' house.
Yep.
And here she is just publishing books.
So just to wrap everything up, just say, because I invited you on, you're on Bookstagram, say what your username is, how we can find you, and I will be putting links in the show notes, and definitely give her a follow because I'm pretty sure she's not done yet with her theories.
Yes, yeah, I'm on Bookstagram. I post pretty regularly, but yeah, you can find me at read.by.anaid, and that's ANAID. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be more Unhinged theories as time goes on, especially over the next 15 days, because I'm going to also probably go back and like reread certain parts of other books, especially Silver Flame, maybe towards the end. Just because there's a lot of things. a lot of things in that one for like the last seven
Yes.
that you're like, oh my God, what just happened? But yeah, come hang out. I like to start some chaos. If you read the
Yeah, that's your thing. I choose chaos today. I'm like,
well,
yes.
I mean, I think I bring it up because like I feel like people don't really talk about some of these things, and you have some people that are like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is for sure, and then other people are like, absolutely not, I don't like it. I'm like, it's cool if you don't. I'm just trying to talk about it, bring it to light, have a friendly conversation. But there are some passionate people out there, and I'm so happy
Yeah.
they're around because it makes it fun. It keeps it interesting. So yeah, if you want to stir the pot a little bit, come hang out.
Oh, the cauldron.
Yeah, stir the cauldron with me. Come hang out.
All right. Well, readers, thank you for joining one episode of bringing on a Maasverse theory expert on here. I have learned so much. I have pulled out some theories that I didn't know that was deep in me, so I'm impressed with myself. Definitely leave a theory in the comments below. I would love to hear it. I bet Anna would love to hear more theories because I'm pretty sure she will go down that route and, figure out that theory as well. So definitely keep joining us, like and subscribe, and everyone have a wonderful day.